What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Greg Rucka's Elektra run. And guys, we pick up with I call Volume 2 of his run. Now, this is actually a great story arc. Now, the main story arc does take place in issues number 11 all the way up to issue number 15. But I kind of want to throw in issue number 10 as well because it's a great prelude that leads into the actual story arc. Now, here's the thing. This is Elektra being broken down to the point where she kind of wished that she was dead. Yes, you heard that right. She's been broken down by a new group of characters to the point where she's going to wish she is dead, but possibly going to change her life for what could be the betterment of her own life. Now, with all of that information being said, let's go ahead and jump into issue number 10, the prelude of this story arc called Introspective. Now, let me just say that issue number 10 is not really that great, but we still need it to kind of lead into the main story arc. So in getting into the opening pages of issue number 10, we do pick up with Elektra arriving back into America, New York. Now, she's flying into the country, so she has to go through the usual questions all like, hey, why are you here in America? How long are you going to be here? Those kind of questions. But after being able to ask those questions and also being able to steal a cab from somebody else who already had that cab, she does head over to her hotel. Now, after getting that cab, she does head over to a nearby hotel. Now, something I should probably mention is that for Elektra, at each of the stops she's going to make in this chapter alone, she's going to use different kinds of names to stay undercover. So when she does arrive at this hotel, we do learn that she's going to name Salvatore. Now, when she walks in, it does seem like she is a regular there. Now, the front desk, he's trying his best to give her that great customer service. But for Elektra, she's not really the nicest person to talk to, but she does get checked in. She goes to her room. After going to her room, she comes back down and he tells her, you have a message that was left behind. He hands her the envelope and she goes on her way to her next stop. We do see her go to Subway. When she dug in the Subway, she does open up her message and the message says just a number. 32. And that's going to be really important for the ending of this chapter. But she does continue on with her day. But then she heads over to a club. Now, we're not technically told what this guy does for Elektra. All we're kind of told is that, like, he's able to get her a place. And we're kind of left to believe that she may use the place for storage or possibly a safe house. Now, while you have Elektra and his Danny guy trying to make a deal at the club, you do have Danny say, hey, it seems like you have been followed. And we do see three guys behind her. And so you do have Elektra leave the club. And when she does, she's being followed by those three guys. And well, those three guys are instantly killed off by Elektra. Only takes her like a few seconds to kill them all. And then she goes on with her day. But now we pick up with Elektra meeting up with a woman known as Dee. Now, Dee was the one who had sent that message to her earlier at the hotel with the number 32. It's a way for her to access this kind of like hideout for this person, Dee, the home of Dee. Now, for Elektra, she thought the reason why Dee had contacted her is because she had some work for Elektra. But you have Dee say, no, I don't have any work for you. Really, instead, the reason why I called you here is because I'm telling you, you have too much heat on you right now. Interpol, SHIELD, and the list goes on. Too many people want your head at the moment. And unfortunately, that makes it hard for the different people who give out contracts who want to hire you. Because now you are told as somebody who's unhireable because you have too much heat. If you have too much heat, you're going to bring that heat on us as well. Now, for Elektra, she can't believe what she's hearing. But before her and Dee are able to continue on with their conversation, bam, Dee is sniped and killed. Now you have Elektra being able to take out the sniper, and she does leave the home of Dee. But for Elektra, it's kind of like, Is that true? Like, do I have too much heat on me? Do too many people out there want me dead? And with that kind of heat, will I ever be able to get another contract job again? And so for Elektra, she has entered the unemployment phase of her life. But now it's time for us to actually talk about the story arc that I really do love by Greg Rucka. Because you do have Elektra walk into this bar in the opening pages of Elektra issue number 11. Now, when she does walk into the bar, she's confronted by all these guys. And when they see her, they want to fight her. Really, the first guy goes to her, gets killed off just like that, gone in a second. And then she says more. It's kind of like she's begging to fight against people. She's begging to kill people. And that is going to be really important for the story arc. But now we have to jump back 1 month ago where we do pick up with Elektra in New York. Now, this is her just getting the newspaper, right? But when it comes to Greg's run, it was established that for Elektra, most of the people try to contact her by using the newspaper, by leaving messages on a newspaper for her to find and say, okay, cool, this person right here wants to hire me to kill somebody. That's great. But the problem is, when she goes to check the newspaper, there's nothing there for her, which basically means no one is trying to hire her at the moment. But then we see her go to Miami 3 weeks prior from the opening pages of this chapter, where you do have Elektra going to a cyber cafe to use their computer to see if maybe somebody had sent her a message by email to say like, hey, we need your help. Hey, we have a contract for you. But once again, when she goes to that computer, there's nothing there for her. The trend continues on. Jump 2 weeks prior from the opening pages of this chapter where we pick up with Elektra in a hotel room, just continuing to wait for an email to come through. And we see by this point, it's driving her mad. The fact that she has not been able to actually receive any kind of work from somebody out there who would usually hire her for some kind of work. But then out of nowhere, her computer does go off. She runs over to the computer to only see is one of those like I call sex worker ads, emails. But either way, she's once again, disappointed because she's not able to get a job. And really, when we jump forward to 12 days prior from the present moment, we see that Elektra has gotten so desperate that she has worked her way over to the people who had hired other people to contract her out. So for example, if you were somebody who needed some help, like you wanted someone dead, you would call up somebody who does the contract hiring, who would then call up Elektra to get the job done for you. But now it's Elektra cutting out the middleman and going to a direct source, hoping that person would have work for her. And so she does go confront this guy who apparently she helped out in the past. But the guy tells her like, listen, I don't do contract work. Like if I needed something done, I call up someone to contact you to make the contract. I don't do that kind of work. And unfortunately, I don't have any work for you at the moment. The trend continues on. We see that day after day, she's going to different people, hoping to find somebody who would give her the chance to just have some kind of work. But again, the trend continues on. Each and every single person tells her like, no, 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 like we have no work for you. Please leave us alone. But then we jump to the point where you have Elektra go to this dojo where she does find the sensei of the place training his class. Now, this is Elektra hitting the point where it seems like she has to fight. She has to battle. She has to see if she still has it as well. The ability to be assassin, the ability to be a fighter. And so you have Elektra going up against the dojo. Now, she goes up against the sensei of the dojo. Now, while going up against him, she takes him out in a matter of seconds. Even though she knew that she'll be able to do that, it kind of like gives her a breathing moment. Like it pleases her because it still shows she still has it in her. And then she leaves. Now, while she is leaving, somebody was watching her. And this person is working for another character, a character going by the name Locke. And he'll become very important in this story arc. But now we are able to jump back to the present day, where we do pick up with Elektra after she had taken out every single person in that bar. But then she is confronted by a guy. Now, this is the same guy we saw at the tail end of the last section, the guy who works for Mr. Locke. And really, speaking of Mr. Locke, he's able to enter the room, confront Elektra, and say, hey, listen, I did this to you. I knew that sooner or later you would get to this point right here. I had this plan in motion for 4 years. And now to see you mentally broken, physically broken, I am now able to go on to the next step of my plan. And that is the end of issue number 11, and we jump into the next chapter. And so then we jump into issue number 12. Now, when we do, we see Elektra being drugged and also being put inside a vehicle by Mr. Locke and also his assistant. And then we see the two guys take Elektra over to what seems to be the home of Mr. Locke. Now, by the end of this section, we kind of get an idea why this man is coming after Elektra for. Because apparently she has done something to him. Well, we already knew that, but really we learned that Elektra had killed off someone he loved. Now we're kind of left to wonder, what is he going to exactly do to Elektra? Like, yes, he's going for revenge, but what kind of revenge is he going for, to be more exact? So then we see Mr. Locke take Elektra into some kind of media room to kind of show her some kind of movie or film that he had put together for her. Now, when he does walk into the room, he's all like, hey, Elektra, how are you? And we get the idea that she's still heavily drugged, like she's very loopy, to the point where they're kind of able to talk to her, but also show her this movie that they have put together for her. Now, we do learn his actual name is Jeremy Locke, and Jeremy is going to be, like I said, very important for this video. So you have Locke say, listen, for this to work, I need you to focus. Even though you're heavily drugged, I need you to watch this movie. And for Elektra, technically, she does not have a choice here. And so she's focused. And he begins to show her this film that he had put together. Really more like a slideshow, to be more exact. And so then we jump into his slideshow, right? And so the first slide he shows is a picture of her and her father. Now, we've been told that Elektra and her father were very close. Now, this book alone is going to give us a better idea of what that relationship was actually like between Elektra and her father. But he goes to the next slide, and the next slide is her being in gymnastics and doing a great job there. And so we're still continuing this happy trend, right? But then we get into the third slide. In the third slide is when her father had died. And that really did a number to Elektra. And so with her being drugged, but also kind of seeing this, she goes in this phase where she's freaking out because she hates the idea of being reminded of her father. But the drugs are kind of bringing her emotions to a level 10. She is heavily saddened with the idea of seeing the picture of her father's body being carried out by the police. But for Jeremy, he says, no, you are not going to stop looking at this. For this to work, you have to continue to watch what I am going to show you. The next slide is very important for you, Elektra. And the next slide is him showing the moment where Elektra was killed off by Bullseye. Now, that is a really important moment because we thought as fans back then that she was dead, but then she was brought back to life. And so for Jeremy, he said, you were dead. You should be dead right now, but you're not dead. You're alive again. You were given a second chance in life. a second life to be more exact. And so for Jeremy, that is going to be really important when it comes to him working on the mind of Elektra. Then you have Jeremy show her a photo of her after she had came back to life, where it seemed that she was on a mission, where she had killed off 12 people. Now, for Jeremy, when he shows her the first photo, it does seem like it's just her fighting. And for Elektra, it's what she loves. She loves the idea of fighting. And so while she was fighting against all those different guys and seeing that photo again, it brought excitement to her. But Jeremy said, "You weren't fighting." Next slide. Bam. You were killing. You killed off all those people right there just to get to your target. Is him saying, no, you're not out there fighting against bad guys. No, you're not out there just fighting random people. You're out there being a monster. You're out there being a killer. And then when he goes into the next few slides, it continues to show her different photos of when she had went on different missions to kill off a certain person. But of course, people had gotten in her way. They were killed off. The ones who got in her way, including her targets. And it's him saying, look here, look here, look here. You're a killer. You're a killer. You're a killer. That's all you are. You are a killer. That's all you're good for. And for Elektra, again, with her being drugged, her emotions are on level 10, but she begins to freak out and wanting to break out and really attack Jeremy, kill off Jeremy, and then try to break away. And so she tries her best. The drugs are somewhat slowing her down, but for Jeremy, his assistant comes right in time to help him out, to bring her back down, but to also give her another dose to make her calm down again, to bring her back to that calm level so that they're able to continue on with their so-called treatment. So once you have Elektra wake back up, we begin to learn why Jeremy is doing all of this for. And the reason why? Because he lost the woman he loves, because of Elektra. And no, she was not her target. You see, for Elektra, she had a different target. And what she was going to do was to kill off her target. She put enough poison on a piece of paper, and her target was going to touch that paper. That poison was going to enter through his skin to kill him off just like that. Now, for Elektra, she thought, okay, you know what? I'll put enough poison to kill off one person. And even though he did die, some of that poison was still there on that paper. And so when it came to Jeremy's wife, she found that paper. She touched the paper. She got the poison, and she died 17 days later. This is Jeremy saying, look at you. You are a killer. You are a monster. But you're also killing off innocent people who were not technically involved in your crusade to go out and get different targets to make money. Your targets are your targets, but innocent people are now being killed off just for you to get to your targets. And so for Jeremy, he wants to teach her a lesson. Now, he's not going to kill her at all. Instead, he's going to leave her out in the middle of the desert. And the reason why, because he says, I'm not a killer. I am not a murderer like you. But instead, I want you to realize what you are. You are a monster. You are a killer. And you do not deserve to live at all. And so he leaves her out in the middle of the desert. And the reason why, because he's kind of hoping that one, the desert will kill her, or at least two, she'll kill herself off. Because now she realized that she's truly a horrible person. And so getting into the next chapter, we do pick up with Elektra just walking through the desert day and night, just walking and walking. And it seems like she doesn't want to die just yet, but that's going to change as we go through this chapter alone. But getting back over to Jeremy Locke, we see that he was not the only person who was trying to come after Elektra. You see, we do learn that there were other people who were also part of the planning. So you have characters like Nolan Curtis, Colonel Liam Fisher, and also Valerie Vasson. Now, these three characters, they're very upset with Jeremy because they wanted to kill Elektra. Like they wanted him to capture her, bring her here, they go there, and then they kill her off just like that. But to hear that he let her go out in the middle of the desert because he does not want to be labeled as a murderer, he's kind of like, no. I have a different plan in mind for her. And really, he tells them, like, I told you guys, I will not be involved in her death in that kind of way. Like, I'm not going to be the one to pull the trigger. If she dies out there in the desert, fine, cool. If she kills herself, fine, cool. But I will not pull a gun to kill off the person, even though she hurt you guys. And she also hurt me as well. I am not going to be labeled as a killer like she is. But getting back over to Elektra, you have Elektra continuing to walk in the desert. Now, as she is walking through the desert, she's then confronted by a snake. Now, you would think that she would allow the snake to go ahead and kill her off. She does not. Instead, she actually captured a snake. And this is going to show us that, yes, Elektra has reached that point where she's actually considering to killing herself. Now, I want to jump back over to Jeremy and to his crew as well, the other people who were also involved in the planning, because we get a better idea. The crew is not really actually happy with Elektra being free because every single person had lost somebody close to them in some kind of way. For example, for the colonel, he lost a group of men. That was kind of his crew. They were all killed off by Elektra. For Valerie, she lost her husband. You know, the trend continues on that each person in this group had lost someone or multiple people to Elektra. And so because of that, they're kind of like, no, she deserves to die for what she has done. And so this kind of leads into the other members of this group beginning to work away from Jeremy. They're kind of like, no, what you did is wrong. You took our money, took our plan, and changed it for your betterment. And that right there is not okay at all. But I want to jump back over to Elektra because you have Elektra still with that snake. Now, for Elektra, while being with the snake, like I said earlier, she has now entered that part of her mind where she's okay with the idea of dying. She's okay with allowing the snake to bite her and kill her off, except when she goes to let the snake go, the snake runs away because the snake was hella freaked out for what she has done to it. And so for Elektra, it's kind of like, dang, I finally had a way to get out of this life. That snake was going to grant my wish. But it also shows that Elektra is not really up to par to kill herself. And so she's kind of hoping that something or someone will actually give her that pleasure. Now, we do a small quick check-in with Jeremy, and we do see that, well, Jeremy is still with the same people, and they're kind of still talking about what to do with him, but to also do with Elektra. Now, with Jeremy, he does tell them, like, hey, listen, if you want to find out where Elektra is at, she's at this location right here in the middle of the desert. And so we kind of see the other members of this group kind of considering going out there in the middle of the desert to find Elektra to just bring her back over to where they are, or possibly find her and just kill her off. But when we go back over to Elektra, we do see her continuing to walk through the desert. Now, here's a big catch. You see, as she is walking through the desert, she begins to have this flashback of her father. Now, we were left to believe at first that her father and her were very close. Instead, this flashback kind of says that's not true. Her father used to abuse her. You see, when she was learning how to be a great gymnast, every single time she made a mistake, he would beat on her and then kind of be like, hey, listen, you know, I'm sorry for what I did to you, but I had to do it as a way to keep you going. And so after having that flashback, we kind of see that she looks at her father as a monster, but she also sees herself as a monster as well. And then she falls into the sand of the desert. Now, I want to jump back over to Jeremy real quick. And the reason why, because you have Jeremy now talking to his assistant, and his name is Philip Carson. Now, for Philip Carson, he wants to know why his boss, Mr. Locke, did not just go ahead and hand over Elektra to the police. And also, they have the evidence as well. Once they had captured her, they should have gave her over to the police, but also gave that evidence as well. She would have been locked up. But he said, listen, all that evidence we had on her, it's not good enough to have her locked away. But also, that is not my end goal for Elektra. And so we kind of learned that for Mr. Locke here, Jeremy, he has a different goal in mind for Elektra. The question is right now, what is that goal? Now, when it comes to the other member of the inner circle, the four people who came together and said, hey, you know what? We are going to get revenge against Elektra. The other three say, you know what? You messed up, Locke. You should have killed her. And because you did not kill her, we are now going to step in. We're going to find her and we're going to kill her. Now, let's not forget that one of the members of the inner circle is a colonel. And so it does seem like he's part of some army. We're not technically told if he is part of an army or some kind of private group, but either way, his men were able to find Elektra just like that out in the middle of the desert. And he tells guys, keep your distance, but watch her. Will be there very soon. So now you have the rest of the inner circle working their way over to where they are at and to hopefully kill off Elektra once and for all. And so as we enter the 5th chapter of the story arc, we actually do see Jeremy being told that, hey, they found her. And so now he knows what comes next. That one, she is alive, but two, she might be killed off by the other members of this inner circle very soon. Now, I want to jump back over to Elektra because remember, at the end of the last chapter, she was only found by a few guys who worked with the Colonel, and the Colonel is one of the members of the inner circle who wanted to kill her. And so you have these guys kind of just messing with her body while she is mostly knocked out. Not completely, because the longer they continue to mess with her, well, she slowly starts waking up again. And so by the end of the section, she is fully awake. And so by the time you have the inner circle arrive at that location, they find all the men who were supposed to just watch Elektra all killed off. They all have been murdered by her. Guys, I said murdered by her. And so when they arrive, they're freaking out. But they also realize that she has taken all the gear of one of the guys, including a radio, which means that she can overhear any calls on their radios at the moment. Now, when you do have the inner circle arrive, she starts shooting at them. Now, two members of the inner circle, they were able to get to cover, but one of them, he was not, and he was shot in the knee multiple times by Elektra. And so he's kind of left out there just trying his best to crawl over to the other two who found some cover. But they're now technically sitting ducks. Now, the Colonel was able to call in another team to hopefully help out with this kind of situation. And really, it does not work at all because you do have the other team arrive, right? They arrive with a helicopter. You think like, okay, cool. You have your chopper. Maybe, just maybe, you can get out of there. No. Elektra takes out the pilot just like that. The chopper, it crashed and burned. So there goes their only way out. And so now the third team has to do their best to protect the inner circle group right now who had decided to come after Elektra. And so you have Elektra just go ahead and kill off every single member of this third team that came in thinking they should be able to actually handle her. And it really shows that, hey, Elektra is not in that same mind state as she was earlier in this story arc. Like right now, she's back to her old ways again, and she's taking everyone out who tried to come at her. But after taking out the entire third team, it's once again just now the last two surviving members of the inner circle just stuck out there in the middle of the desert. And really, it's not the last two surviving members of the inner circle because the guy who got shot in the leg earlier is still alive, but you do have Elektra take out the colonel. And when she does that, she gives the last two members of the inner circle a fair chance to hopefully make it back to some kind of city nearby in the desert area because the last two now is a guy who can not walk at all, and the other person is just a woman who wanted revenge against Elektra because, well, she killed off her husband. But now for Elektra, her new main target is to go after Jeremy once again. And so she is able to make it all the way back over to his house. And this leads us into the final chapter of today's video. And so as we get into the final chapter for today's video, at first, it does seem like Elektra is going to kill off Jeremy. Now, the reason why she's going to kill him off is kind of like first, the whole idea that he did drug her, he did kidnap her, and he did kind of leave her out in the middle of the desert. Yes, that was all his fault. But she also believes that he was the one who had sent those soldiers after her. He says, no, that was not me. That was not my doing. Like, that was someone else in my group who felt like you deserved to die. Now, that right there is really important because it's not him saying like, hey, I want to kill you. Hey, I think you should be killed off. Hey, you know what? You are a horrible person. Instead, it's him saying, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to change you. And this leads into what he is trying to do for the character of Elektra. I want you guys to think back to what I said earlier when it came to Jeremy. He said, listen, you had two lives, and both of those lives, you were a murderer. It's time for you to change. That's the whole point of this. He wants to make Elektra a better person in this world because in both of her lives, she was a killer. She was an assassin. It's time to be something else. But he had to mentally break her down to kind of show her what he wanted her to see. Like, hey, you are a great assassin. You are a great fighter. But what if you use those skills for something else besides just killing? Like, yes, you can fight against people, but why do you have to kill? Now, for Elektra, she's still at that point where she wants to die. She's even begging Mr. Locke's assistant to go ahead and kill her off. But they said, no, we're not going to kill you. We're here to change you. We're here to make you a better person. And so the book kind of ends with her now staying with Locke, staying with Carson as well. And hopefully we can see a change in Elektra. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.